Shaking Warfighter Nation, Ron here with Warfighter Ranch and Isaiah 6:8. And today we're coming at you with Frago 3:5 of Faith in a Foxhole. The lens of spiritual warfare, soul wounds, scars of the soul, S.O.S. The inculcation of America's sons and daughters into the warfighter culture and mindset via the different tribal traditions and methodologies of our outstanding military branches is undoubtedly a transformation unlike any other. Whether you've conquered the crucible, as our young nephew has recently, Semper Fi shout out to our nephew Nick, rah, or you got your jump wings pinned on down at Benning by a World War II paratrooper like I did, or maybe you work on the darker side of the house and received a Silver Star in some dimly lit special mission unit briefing room with less than a handful of people. All of these were all intertwined. The three primary tenets of our warfighter culture and community are very similar to the traits of those who walk closely in their faith: honor, integrity, and sacrifice. Honorable service, by definition, encompasses all of these traits. The other two often go unspoken, yet are clearly understood and accepted with an extreme sense of accountability. It is our oath, our bond. It's a time when we are tested and proven to be who we discover we are capable of being. Not someone to become or aspire to, but that we've achieved an ascendant state of being. This feeling, per se, is the Holy Spirit flowing through us. The confluence of faith and values creates something near supernatural within us. Do you ever wonder why we crave it so much? In due time, these values, which are initially taught, inevitably meld into our spiritual skeleton. For the first time in our lives, we become a member of something bigger than merely ourselves, but a distinct people group for the first time. People group is a church term designated for what the military might call a special population. In the military, the term often carries with it a negative connotation, but not here. In our ministry, it's everything. Most civilian churches and ministries work with several underserved people groups, the veteran community among them. But here at Warfighter Ranch, the veteran community is not among many people groups served. It is the sole one. And it's within this, the warfighter culture, that our transcendent cause is realized and thereby sown into our hearts forever. But faith under fire is tough. Yet, even in your most intense moments of emotion, you still have it. Without a doubt you do. You have faith in your battles, those who stand shoulder to shoulder at your left and right. And as your skills increase, your weapons and gear become an extension of your person in short order. We do have the ability to have faith when it really matters. God placed our inherent need of Him into the fabric of our souls. Spiritual warfare is not like anything most people have ever consciously, willingly, or knowingly dealt with. To call it unconventional warfare seems so empty, such an understatement. Since leaving active duty, there's been a paradigm shift in our battle initiative. The primary focus on survival itself remains intact. However, the preparation for and willingness to give your life for another remains sewn deep into the underpinnings and foundation of who we are. Herein lies the problem, so to speak. Most of us may never find ourselves in another life-threatening combat scenario again. Thank God. It's not that we desire to fight or to kill, but once your soul has served at this level, many things of this world tend to seem trite and without as much meaning as they once did. This is why the transition for our veterans exiting the service can be particularly brutal. More often than not, we still yearn to serve our own. However, it bottles up inside if we aren't connecting with others. Our transcendent cause, or calling to serve something greater than ourselves to the point of death, remains the same as it ever was: each other. Jesus Christ Himself was, is, and always will be the ultimate embodiment of this example. John 15:13 tells us, "Greater love has no man than this, that he lay down his life for his friends." Can you relate? Success in spiritual warfare is measured not in enemy body count or captured enemy weapons caches, but in survival and in living through the engagement. And we did. We were victorious by any measure of our task and purpose. Yet here we stand, those who survived our own combat engagements, MST experiences, toxic chains of command, bad marriages, substance abuse, physical abuse, and worse, seemingly frozen in our tracks. Somewhere along the line, we forgot how to put one foot in front of the other. The same fight or flight response that enabled us to survive combat has somehow transposed in our post-service life. Often this leaves us led by a purpose, the wrong one, and we achieve a state of imbalance against the nature of what God created us to be. What those in government circles and many mental health professionals are labeling moral injury can present a dystopic filter on the lens in which we view life. And the term itself, moral injury, I personally don't care for the term, nor the subtle insinuation that a warfighter somehow made an immoral choice, whether intentionally or against their will. War ain't hell, but you can sure see it from there. A lot of health professionals don't seem to realize that both taking a life and saving one are commonly intertwined within the same scenario. The bittersweet sharpness of battle and lethality of combat bears a camaraderie and a height of our ability to love our fellow man like no other. It's almost as if God allowed us to pierce the veil. This comfort zone and operational space of the camaraderie in warfighters exists today as much as it ever has, where it began, on the very fine line of life and death. That's love. The friction of combat, sweat, and a clear battle mind act as the functional lubricant on these engagements. This combination, fueled by faith and adrenaline, works in concert to create your own personal symbiotic battle rhythm. Is it like that all the time? Negative. But it sure is nice when everything's dialed in and syncing perfectly, even if for a moment. Now I'm going to give you Ron's definition of what I believe soul wounds to be. Soul wounds are the residual effects of surviving an incident, event, or other experience whereby an individual's moral code was violated in word, deed, action, or inaction, which resulted in intentional, inadvertent, or accidental fatalities or injuries. I know that sounds like a mouthful, but it's as close as I could get to the description that I have in my heart. Often misnomered as moral injury, which is a term defined by the government, this falls more in line with the wounds at the core, at our soul level. And although it's popular in our current culture to attach buzzwords or labels to things we can't fully understand, I don't really believe the government has any place trying to put these types of wounds and issues in their wheelhouse of descriptive adjectives or acronyms. It's not necessarily leadership from the mental health or psychological communities that we need to look for, but pragmatic, faith-based leadership. For without it, our warfighters will truly stay lost. Let's go to the Bible. In the book of Micah 6:8, He has told you, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you but to do justice, and to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God. Sounds pretty simple. We are created beings, and as such, originate from our Creator. And those of us born in the United States, well, we're a little bit more blessed than most. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, and they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We can feel the soul-scarring shrapnel that both shreds at our core and sears those invisible wounds shut with the sting of fresh pain still deep inside and leaving fresh scar tissue in its wake. A hollow space of sorts, we often feel a void. Something's missing from our core being, where in reality there's not merely a simple change, but a metamorphosis occurring. That void is no lifeless cavern of emptiness at all, my friends. but your heart beginning to heal. Somewhere down the line, we became our own judge, jury, and executioner, and often sentenced ourselves to some form of self-imposed purgatory. Fun fact, that's a term that comes from religion, and not to be confused with reality. Warfighters love one another enough to die for each other. How is it so difficult to live beyond that? It's because you've pierced the veil between life and death and lived to tell the tale. That's not really the t-shirt anybody ever wanted, but once you realize that you were chosen for this journey, this battle, this combat tour, this life, you begin to see the message in your mess. Now there's a verse in the Bible that really hits home with me and men like me that I've seen, people who you never thought would go into ministry. And that's Acts 4:13. Now when they saw the boldness of Peter and John and perceived that they were uneducated common men, they were astonished, and they recognized that they had been with Jesus. Many of you have seen the beauty that is coming out of my ashes. We can't wait to see what beauty he makes from yours. Stick around. We'd love to walk beside you. Next mission, time now.